It is Wednesday, February 3rd. It's 4:01 p.m. And I'm calling this meeting of the Superintendent Search Committee to order. The Nashua School District is holding an emergency meeting pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, Section 8, and Emergency Order 12, Section 3. I'll do the roll call, I guess. Ms. Brown?
Present.
Ms. Timmons?
Here.
Ms. Ziem is out of town this week. Ms. Hines?
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. O'Gara?
Here. Sorry.
We also have Tara Kinsella and board member Paula Johnson. Did I miss anybody? Okay. All right. So I'm going to begin by leading the meeting. And we have a number of things on the agenda, including the organization of this meeting. But I thought in order to get the position at least posted on our website and start that movement, we need to get the job description hammered out. So I figured we'd start with that. And then I suggest that we take things out of order and go into the chair and the membership and then the proposals and the next steps. But I'm open to suggestions from people. So the superintendent job description, we started talking about this at the HR meeting last week. And the HR committee decided to send it over to this committee to really dig into it because they had other items going on. I read it. I think it looks really good. Ms. Oden wrote to me today and asked that we put 5 years experience. So I'll throw that on the table, not with a motion, but just throw it out there for wordsmithing. And see, Ms. O'Gara?
So when the qualifications are structured. So first, when you read the qualifications, that's the minimum qualifications.
Yep.
And then it goes to the ideal candidate will possess strong leadership skills with a collaborative management style, priority, and blah, blah, blah. And then I think the third one, that maybe the third one, there was a second. The preferred candidate will have a minimum of 3 years. Of
Yep.
experience.
So, and
I actually have something I'd like to add to that sentence as well as the 3 year. I think it should be, I agree with Ms. Timmons that it should be 5 years. And I actually think we should strike or assistant superintendent. I think in this case, I think we really owe it to the district to make sure someone has had superintendent experience.
Can I jump in?
it's Miss Oden. Yeah, just to be clear, it was Miss Oden who said 5 years.
Wanted to,
I apologize.
Okay. But I think 5 years is too long. I think 4 years would be better.
I think, can I say something?
Sure.
Yes, I mean, this is just a free-for-all.
You want to open yourself up to the possibilities. And as you narrow this down, you're going to have a smaller group of people applying for the job, right? And it doesn't mean that you have to take someone with 3 years, right? It's just that we can take a look at them. But if that's what we really want, 5 years, we'll look for someone with 5 years. Sometimes people surprise you, you know? Sometimes there's a person out there. Look at Garth. He's going awesome. He's going a mile a minute, right? And he's only been an assistant superintendent. So you don't want to disclude somebody who might actually be great because there's a lot of different components, right? Their characteristics, their energy level and all these things. And sometimes it doesn't always, somebody who's personal and just going by 5 years You might,
Dana, can I ask you a
Go ahead.
question? Isn't normally a contract is at least 4 years? That's why it said 4 years. So if they are superintendent for one contract season, it would be at least 4 years.
it could be any number of years.
Okay,
It
In
could
some
be-
districts, it's 3 too, also.
Yeah,
okay.
All right. I mean, I don't have strong feelings about 3, 4, or 5, to be honest. 3 is definitely a minimum. I want someone who's had that administrative experience in a central office environment. But it's not something that I would, a
I'm
hill to
pretty
die
firm
on.
on the concept of it being a superintendent experience as opposed to assistant superintendent. And I think also Miss Oden, I remember, had mentioned, and I mentioned in an earlier email to the last one, in a large district, I think it has to be someone with at least 5,000 to 7,000 students or greater to best service the families of Nashua. So I guess, so the way I would write that sentence specifically would be the preferred candidate will have a minimum of 3 years experience as a superintendent and demonstrate the ability to lead a district with at least 7,000 students.
Instead of substantial sized.
Yes, I think we need to be specific on something, pick a number or greater.
what if it's 5,001?
That would, if 5,000 is the number we decide on, that is acceptable.
It's very,
But I think honestly, I think one of our mistakes in the past was kind of casting too broad of a net. I think our job when we're making this description is kind of writing, we want to make sure we're getting exactly what we want and need for this district with our shoot for the moon. And then if we need to narrow in our scope later, then that's fine. But I think that by kind of minimizing our qualifications, we're doing a disservice to the district in our search, in my opinion.
Go ahead, Stacy.
yeah, I think we're talking about two different things, and Dana knows better about this, but I think there's a big difference between the job description and then what I think each of the 3 proposals you're considering talked about the attributes, specific attributes that you're looking for the Nashua School District. So I don't know, Dana, do you see the difference? I'm afraid you're going to, I think my understanding is the goal of a job description is to really for the candidate and for the Board of Education to generate a deep pool of candidates. I don't think you want to, at the starting gate, be so narrow that somebody looking at this who might be very viable would say, oh, I guess I don't qualify.
I agree with Stacy. That's why under the bilingual preferred but not necessary, it will cast a larger net out there. If we put that in the beginning of the job description, because some people might not even consider applying for that job, for this particular job, but if you put bilingual preferred but not necessary, we cast a larger net out there of candidates.
Where's that?
It's not there.
That was one of the items that Lori had put up, and I think that's an excellent addition as well to the list of qualifications.
Yeah.
And if this is, I'm going to digress a little bit more about the order that we're doing this in. If we look at these proposals for the consulting companies, all of their proposals include the wordsmithing of this in their proposal. They'll actually do the work on this part for us. So if we wanted to change our methodology a bit, because I can see us kind of already getting into the weeds in agreements on what we think is an ideal candidate, we could discuss how we're going to choose a consulting company, let them do the work on this, on the job description with our input and with Dana's input. And then, I don't know, I think there may be some things that we could lessen the workload on ourselves and get more clear, experienced work from people who do this full time, if we wanted to consider doing this in a different order.
I thought that we was going to try to eliminate that first so we can save money. How's that going to work if we hire a consultant right off the bat without trying to get a superintendent without costing us a bunch of money? Dana?
I have a feeling that the qualifications is, I'm just gonna throw it out there. This is the only part that we might get stuck in the weeds on. Am I correct? Does everybody like the rest of it?
Yes.
Yes.
And
I don't know, Jess.
I think it's fine.
Like this.
go ahead, Stacy.
Because if
I do have a couple of
Oh,
other.
I'm sorry, Dana.
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Stacy.
Okay, there was a couple things I noted right at the top under supervises, and I believe the superintendent also supervises 2 secretaries,
Oh, yes.
and we don't want to leave them out.
Oh,
But the superintendent supervises everybody in the district. He delegates responsibilities, and that's in the education regulations. So he basically, it's a trickle down thing, and we do have an org chart, but we can add secretaries on there.
I think that's important to acknowledge. They are the executive officer of the school district, and they have 2 executive secretaries.
Is that the official title?
No, they have one executive secretary and then a regular secretary, and it's always been that way.
so the second sentence in this overall responsibility, the superintendent is responsible for the overall delivery of administrative and leadership services for the district. That would include them as well.
It does, but I don't see the harm in on supervises at the very end, just writing comma executive secretaries.
I just wanted to point that out. It's not missing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there really is a difference between the 2. One has a higher level function and the other one doesn't. And that's been going on for a long time.
Okay.
Way before, you think even before Mark Conrad.
Okay.
We could just say in the 2 secretaries.
Does she want to?
Okay.
I mean, Tara's the executive secretary. So we could say executive secretary and secretary, or we could say, I don't think Tara knows who she is. We all know.
What's her title, Tara?
Yeah.
Is that assistant?
Wait a minute.
secretary? Executive secretary and assistant secretary? Is that the title?
Tara
just-
is the executive secretary.
Secretary.
She's a salaried person.
Mhm.
She can work any amount of hours, and we make her do it too.
Lucky me.
Gabby is hourly.
So she's the assistant secretary. So I'm trying to get a title out.
Just secretary, no
Just-
qualifier.
okay. All right.
But I don't know that we need to write that. I don't care. I don't mean I don't care. I do care. I mean, I don't have an opinion on this exact matter.
Okay.
Okay, so to Jessica's point, Jessica asked that we consider the 3 proposals before we finish going through this. Ms. Timmons, I'm sorry, Ms. Brown suggested that we do that. Ms. Timmons felt that we should do this to try and get it out of the way and maybe save some money that way. Ms. O'Gara and Ms. Hines, do you have a preference?
Among the proposals, or no, among what we do first?
Among, should we not do the, yes, which do we do first?
You guys was here before, we was not, so we really respect your opinion on this.
Well, and I'm sure Dana can tell you too, we've approached this using both. as far as the history is concerned. I think, you know, it's really, you know, again, really understanding that the Nashua Board of Education is the employer. And, you know, it's up to the Nashua Board of Education to really define the process and obviously with the goal being the most highly qualified candidate to lead the Nashua School District. Whenever we have used a contractor, and I thought one of them was quite upfront to explain that, is that there always is a tremendous amount of work on central office staff. I see the contractor as being in an advisory capacity, but when it comes to rolling up the sleeves and, you know, getting the work done, an awful lot always falls onto superintendent's office and other people in central office, depending on how wide a net you want to cast, how wide, how are you thinking you want to include in the decision-making process? You know, there's going to be a lot of thought into, I think, just who you think that candidate should be, and maybe consult others on the attributes of this, what you want to see in the final candidate. So I was a little taken back that all three of the consultants we're considering tonight were all from the Midwest. And I was just wondering, and I noticed none of the consultants that they referred to were even from New England. I think the closest was New York. So I was, you know, just curious if that was deliberate.
I can actually speak to that. I used some information that Dana O'Gara had given me, and also some research on the internet to reach out to, I don't know, a dozen companies, and asking for proposals. And most of the ones that were in Boston, Massachusetts area, those are really the only ones in New England per se. There, one was in Connecticut. They were considerably more expensive, like tens of thousands of dollars. One was nearly $100,000. And so I didn't really make a formal ask for that. So I thought it was out of our price range.
Jessica, didn't one of these firms hire the Manchester superintendent?
So one of them hired the Manchester, one of them hired the Portland, Maine, or Portsmouth, New Hampshire one, and one of them hired, I don't know, there's several of them that have recently done work here in New Hampshire and the region, Maine, Vermont. Somebody just did one in New Jersey and Manchester, correct.
So which one was that?
And now, yeah, I can't remember. Hold on a second. I'm gonna have to flip through here. Hold on a sec.
Yeah, because I think that makes a difference if we knew which one handled the Manchester, New Hampshire one, which one handled the Portsmouth, New Hampshire one, and which one handled the Portland, Maine one.
Mhm.
And I think it's important, if I might jump in here, the ones that serviced anybody in New England, that we call the district and we find out how happy were they in the search. Because I think, I don't care about, and I put notes here, references here are great, but you know, we need to talk to them and say, were they on time? Did they do exactly what you asked for? When they charged you, you know, for the search, did they overcharge on the expenses, the travel and the basic? And would you recommend them again? Because this is very important, especially where we're going to contact the one from, let's say, Manchester, then they know what Manchester district is like. So they would have an idea of what Nashua's district is like, because they're a bigger city than we are. So I think that would be very important that we get some references before, you know, we decide to hire anybody. I see you shaking your head, Gloria.
I'm agreeing. That's all.
I know, that's what I'm saying, because I know you understand this, you know, you're an expert in this. So that's why, you know, I think it's very important that we get some references before we start spending the money. Thank you.
Yes, and also the costs. I would like to know the proposed expense for each one. Because I know the School Board Association has their contractor, and that's 15,000. So
Yeah, I think it was around 15. The just for your rep to follow up your question, the BWP hired the Portland, Maine superintendent, and then the McPherson and Jacobson hired the Manchester and also Burlington, Vermont.
And do you have a price for BWP?
BWP, I don't know. And my suggestion would be that before we would finalize our decision, and because all of these companies approached me with the same perspective, that we should do like a virtual interview with our committee with them before we make our final decision, to see how we connect with the consultant, to see that if they're kind of a person that connects with us. That's free of charge. It's not included, or it's not, there's no extra cost for that.
I found on the BWP, they have on page 8, they have the breakout of their expenses.
yep.
The school exec connect, that was, when I added everything up, it was about 32.9. This one was about 43, I think, if I added everything out correctly.
Which one is
and
this one?
Paula, can you, I'm sorry, I lost you. So what were you just saying?
BWP,
Mm-hmm.
if my math is correct, is about 43,300, and it's on page 8.
Okay.
The school exec connect, their fees were on the last page, and my math is correct, is about 32.9.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, I know I've gone through basically the contracts and the proposal and made a list of questions and, you know, question marks here.
So I was gonna say, I think if I don't know if somebody is jotting this down, the BWP, there's a basic cost is 17.5, and then there's administrative expenses and travel expenses. Then it says that the total consultant fees and support expenses will not exceed $24,600 with a possible reduction or elimination of all consultant travel. So the top number for that one would be 24,600.
Okay.
But then I think you were correct on those other numbers, Paula.
What?
Yeah, but I think, excuse me, I think on all this, I added in the following options. I think that's what I might have added in also on that.
What's the
best-
McPherson and Jacobson one?
Yeah, she didn't mention that one yet.
No, I didn't get to that. I didn't find that.
This is on the back.
That was enrollments.
Yeah.
It does say in here. You know what the most interesting meeting to watch from home, your home living room, is other people shuffling through papers.
Right? As always, we are must-see TV.
And numbers.
This one I need to get.
Matter of fact, I put a note on that one that I
Oh.
didn't see any of their expense and advertising costs.
It's page 20,
Okay, yes.
and it says not to exceed 20,000, but that's online only. And then if you need, if we want them to do this job description, contracts, etc., travel to the home district. All of that is extra and it doesn't say how much.
Where is this located?
Page 20.
No, I got that. They will be coming from Nebraska.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay.
this one
So-
says the fee for conducting the search is $16,900 for phases 1 through 5. The total amount not to exceed, but including expenses, is $20,100. But that's for online visitations. So there probably would be, which I mean, we're meeting remotely, so that probably would be a good way to save us a couple bucks. Not having to worry about travel.
Okay.
Okay, so that circles back around to finishing up the job description so we don't have to pay extra for someone else to do it. It would be nice to hand them one, and then if they had tweaks, they could do that. And that is, of course, assuming that the full board, that we would recommend hiring a search committee and the full board would agree to it. 'Cause I don't know that we
the
have.
money to do that. How did that look? Maybe, I don't know who can answer that question, Tara or Stacy, any of you guys. How much money can we use for this?
That's really a Dan question, and we've kind of asked him. He's, until he starts to look at what we've spent this year and what's left, he can kind of adjust. Obviously, the lower the better, let's face it. But he's
Knowing Dan.
aware that it's something we might need to do, but he hasn't given us a specific number. I think he was hoping to find out what would work for you guys, and he would try to make it work. But obviously, he's going to say lower is better.
I noticed that on the, I'm sorry.
I said, go
school
ahead,
app,
Dana.
It talks about fingerprinting. So we have to, as a school district, we have to fingerprint the superintendent. And it's a FBI print that goes all across the United States. So I don't, like, when you look at the School X Connect, it has, $750 for fingerprinting. We don't need them to fingerprint. If they want to do another background check, a reference check, yes. Okay, or if you want to do something on their finances, we can do that. We've talked about that in the past as well, because that probably because of a previous superintendent a long time ago, whose name shall not be said. But maybe we could narrow it down. Like, we actually have 2 of these guys that have been in New Hampshire in the surrounding area. And they happen to be the 2 cheapest options as well.
I didn't get a proposal from the School Boards Association, but keep that one in the back of our minds as well then. Because that one's $15,000.
And maybe the way that we decide is that we have that free Zoom meeting with them and get to meet them, right? And then we decide. I don't think we can decide today. We can narrow the field, right?
Right.
But
I
at least
agree.
I think having the meeting with the consultant is definitely necessary before we decide which one we want to go with.
Oh, yeah.
So
Agreed.
So can we agree then that we're going to want to Zoom interview the McPherson and Jacobson, which is the one who found the Manchester superintendent?
Yes.
And then, what did I do with the paper? And then the BWP, because they did Portland, Maine. And then perhaps have the School Boards Association give us their breakdown as well via Zoom.
Okay.
And if we're going to do these 2, I would suggest we get some references too. So when we interview them, we also see, so we can build questions off of any negative. I hope it's all positive, but just in case there's something there that's negative, we could ask them the question, why did this happen? And how would you correct it this time? And what would you do differently?
Okay.
I think that's a good suggestion. It's important to ask, these other school districts who served as their in-house point of contact for the consultant and to talk to that person.
Okay. Who would like to do that, to make those calls to, it looks like Portland and Manchester.
Out there.
I'll call him. I already talked to him. I've talked to all three of these people on the phone already. I'll do it.
Okay.
Would you guys be interested in, if I could get well, I mean, we can talk about this a little bit later. If everybody here is available during like a daytime next week, maybe we could get like 3 back-to-back Zoom meetings. Like, I know that's a long time, like 90 minutes. We did like half hour to meet them all. If I could coordinate that, would you be interested in that?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't work, so I'm okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
the people I selected for this committee, frankly, it was specifically regarding their daytime availability. So if anyone's hurt feelings would like to be on this committee who weren't, that was really the selection criteria.
So Jessica,
Right. It was smart, Heather, because we have a very short time frame for a lot of work.
right.
Right.
So I think we should let Jessica, she's did a great job so far. I don't see why we can't use her knowledge to go ahead and make those phone calls.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I'd like to go a little bit further and suggest that Jessica chair the committee.
And I second it.
Jessica, how do you feel about that? I know you're already chairing C&E, and so I don't want to put too much on your plate.
No, yeah, I'm willing to do it.
Okay.
I think I can do it. The ball's rolling. We've got a good team. I don't feel overburdened at this point.
Okay.
Ask me in 6 months.
So I'm going to write it down as a motion. I nominate Jessica.
Second by me.
Seconded by, I'm sorry, I keep being informal because it's afternoon. As soon as it becomes dark, I'll be like Mrs. Brown and Miss Timmons, but it's light out and I'm getting confused. Seconded by Miss Timmons. So we'll do roll. Miss Brown, how do you vote?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Miss Timmons.
Yes.
All right, and I'm a yes. So, Miss Brown, you are now the chair. Would you like to take over at this exact moment, or would you like me to finish it up?
I mean, I think we're kind of doing an open table here, so we can just roll with that.
Okay.
But I think we're on the right track. So I guess right now the list of items is we'll get a meeting set up with these consultant companies for next week. So I guess we'll circle back to, do we want to go ahead and workshop this qualification list now, or do we want to wait until next week?
I think that I have a solution to our previous conversation. So where it says, so Mrs. Brown, you are proposing that it only say superintendent, and it says 5 years. That's okay, because you know why? Because we put it as the preferred candidate, and that doesn't mean that we can include somebody else that we like. So I would agree that we say 5 years in superintendent, because we're still leaving ourselves open, because we're saying this is our ideal candidate.
Okay.
I think that is an excellent thing. So I say,
It's not saying minimum qualifications, it's just saying preferred.
Preferred. Would the group be amiable to also adding a district size to that? That was something that Miss Oden and I had talked about. Because I honestly, I really don't think a district with 2,000 students is the same as Nashua.
No, go ahead, Ms. Timmons.
No, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I would want it to be, at least 4,000 or 5,000 students, because you need to have someone who's got experience handling multiple schools on multiple, grade levels.
I think that's the key. And you want some urbanization as well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we're not looking at people, well, I mean, we're not looking for someone who's, you know, been superintendent of 100,000 person district either. You know, you want that slightly bigger than small.
Yeah.
Like Nashua, the perfect city.
Would it be preferred as well, so that, you know, if you did find somebody that maybe had that urban setting, but it was a smaller urban setting of 3,000, it would still be, you know, if, as long as they're, you know,
Yeah.
experiences, that way you don't narrow yourself down to saying, geez, we picked somebody who doesn't even fit in the, because every other qualification or personality, management style could be who you want, but maybe the district size isn't exact. So is that still preferred?
It is.
Yes, it
Like,
is.
we're not saying must here. We're working on the same sentence. We're not saying they must have it. We're saying, hey, our ideal or our preferred candidate looks like this.
Right.
Actually, at that point then or can we add in the part that Ms. Timmons mentioned that bilingual is, can we put it in there?
Let's put it
Preferred
on.
but not necessary.
Preferred but not necessary. So maybe that should go in another sentence or after a semicolon or something.
So, yeah, because there's two parts to that paragraph. The first part says they must have at least 3 years experience as an educator, the collegiate program, et cetera, et cetera. Then it says the preferred candidate will have a minimum, and we're changing that to 5 years of experience as superintendent and demonstrate the ability to lead a district of at least, would you say 5,000 students, Jessica? 7, 5?
I'm kind of open to that number. I think
Okay.
definitely more than 5.
Okay. A diverse district is high, blah, blah. The ideal candidate will possess strong leadership skills. I would say somewhere in between those sentences, we would want to write the ideal candidate would be bilingual.
No, will not. Don't say will be bilingual. It's just bilingual preferred, but not necessary. And I think in my opinion, the perfect spot to put it is right here, right under the 12-month preferred, right up front, preferred, bilingual preferred, but not necessary. Not in the sentence, but that's
Let's go
my
in the
opinion.
qualifications.
Huh?
Has to go in the qualifications.
Well,
So-
that's the qualification. Well, somewhere where it stands out, but not saying bilingual only.
So maybe the preferred candidate,
How about right at the very end, its own sentence, it just kind of ends the paragraph.
Okay. Yeah,
Bilingual preferred but not required,
but not necessary.
not necessary.
Can I just jump back and ask a question? When you're talking about the number of students in the district, should it say a minimum of 5,000? You could start, if you go minimum, it doesn't mean that it has to be, or higher, but it could be like, you know, a minimum. So
Yeah.
this way, minimum of X amount of students. So that's a starting point. So somebody who's only had 1,200 students, they're not going to apply for this.
mhm.
But if we have a certain amount, and then we can work up from it. So maybe put that in there.
But
If
we're,
that sounds good.
I'm sorry.
I think that's what Jessica had proposed.
Or did she say minimum? I thought she said
I said at least, but we
At
can
least.
change it to, we can use minimum.
minimum,
at
I
least.
think is better.
But we're still in the same sentence, right? About our preferred candidate.
Yes.
Right.
Instead of a substantial size district,
Right. So we're trying to change substantial size district to 5,000 or 6,000. We can add urban on there too.
I don't know,
Right.
we're kind of suburban, but
She said urban.
And I will say it's kind of hard to define what counts as urban and suburban these days.
Okay.
But I think size will hopefully generate a city type environment rather than something more rural.
Mhm.
I would have to double check, but I believe according to the federal government and our federal funding, I think technically we are labeled as an urban school district.
that's interesting.
I would have to double check that, but I believe that's what I remember.
So we have to also identify the measurement. Are we talking about amount of students, or are we talking about population?
Ms. Brown said a minimum of, no, she said at least 5,000 to 6,000 to 7,000 students. But I think Ms. Johnson wanted to change it to a minimum, a district,
Of at least 5,000, right?
students.
Yeah, I think it's has to do with the student size rather than population size, because I know that depending on where you are regionally, like thinking of like the greater Boston area, they have a lot of people packed into a small area where the school district that you're supervising may be actually smaller than ours, even though the city, it feels like the city, the urban area that you're living in feels like it's much bigger because it's connected to so many others. So I don't know. I think the number of students is what we're, in my opinion, is what's most necessary. You know, we want to have some place that has multiple high schools, some place that has multiple elementary schools, that has diverse population and some Title I experiences. I think that's all really important.
Will just saying urban cover that, or do you think that we have to have some more qualifiers in there?
That honestly, the urban part, in my opinion, is something we could look at someone's resume and kind of comparatively, we might not need to have the word urban in there if we make sure that it's a large enough student population you're working with, but could go either way.
Because we could just say and demonstrate the ability to lead a district of at least 5,000 students.
In a diverse population.
Yeah.
I just had a diverse district with a minimum of 5,000 students or more. Diverse is the word that's I think is critical to have in there.
Yeah, it's the next word. So all we have to do is hook it on somehow.
Well, I think you say a diverse district of at least 5,000 students. Oh, Ms. Brown, you're on mute.
Thank you. Tara, would I be able to ask you to put this on the screen? So maybe it might make it easier if we type it in there into the document, we can all see it, and then we can see if we all like it. Because I think we're getting somewhere. We're almost there, but it's hard when you don't look at it.
Well, let's see what I can do here.
All right. Or I have it too. If I would just have to dig it up a second.
Keep in mind that there's, definitely a marketing phase of this, and we can certainly, when you come to market the school district and the city of Nashua, you can, these sort of descriptions can come into play as opposed to a job description.
I think that's a good thing to note.
Out of curiosity, if we come to consensus about the job description, at least as a starting point to give a consultant group, if we hire the consultant group, could we go ahead and post it on the website, or do we have to wait until we've selected the consulting group and they've gotten started?
No, because any one of the consulting groups, they're going to have to lead them to our website. But because we need all on our application, we have a lot of disclaimers and legal things. So, they have to apply with us. So they imagine some of them are going to go, they're all going to go out and search candidates for us, right? And they're going to probably say, okay, here, Nashua, here's what we have. And then we'll ask them to apply. And the search firm is going to help us through the whole process of what we're going to go through to find our final candidate.
So you're saying that the consultant will be reviewing all the applications?
The consulting, it's kind of like when we hire the ROTC. The Air Force says, here are all our candidates that can teach your students in the ROTC program. So I imagine that the search firm would say, here are the candidates that we are recommending to you. It could be wrong.
Yes, no, that's accurate. My understanding is that the consulting firms will do 3 different things. They will help us list and market the position. They will then help us research the candidates that we come in through outside sources. And at least 2 of the 3, and the other one I wasn't entirely clear from their packet, will also do some headhunting for us, going out and searching candidate pools that they think will fit our qualification, our list of qualifications.
So recruitment is part of this.
Recruitment is part of the package. And then they're going to do some background checks. I think it's great that we can save some money on the fingerprinting possibly. But they'll do those, like the preliminary background checks. And then one of them, when we finalize down to 2 candidates, that actually says that they'll do a deep background check for us to, maintain our confidence. And then all of these companies come with some type of guarantee as well. So if I'll have an agreement not to recruit from our district through our first round of contracts with whoever we hire. And if the candidate does not choose to stay with us for at least through their end of their first contract, they will, or like through the first year, if it doesn't become a good fit, if we choose to end the contract for any reason in that first year, they'll actually perform a second search for us entirely free. The other, except for maybe administrative costs. And the third thing is that most of them have some kind of board / superintendent mentoring program to help ease the new superintendent into their position and follow up. And that's included in the package cost, which I think is also a really good benefit as well.
So I have a question. You said they won't recruit from within our district. So does that mean that they wouldn't accept internal candidates?
Won't come back. They won't come and snake one of our people for anybody else that they're recruiting for over the next year.
Oh.
Or over the next period of time. They have different length time. One said 3 years, one said 5 years. They had different amounts of time. So they're not going to say, hey, we're going to place this guy or girl here and know that they're really an awesome candidate and then come and sell them to somebody else 2 years from now. So that's good.
Okay. Okay.
So,
go ahead.
See where we are?
Yes, please.
If you need it larger, let me know.
Yes, please. Significantly.
I'm just going to jump out here, but I want to say thank you for allowing me just to kind of sit in this and kind of give a couple of insights in my opinion, like always.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us before you head out, Ms. Johnson?
No, I'm good. But thank you for letting me in and being part of this. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Especially you, Gloria. Love ya.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm turning this on.
All right.
I like it.
I think this is pretty good. Where are you feeling, Heather?
Oh, I was nodding. Yes, I like it.
Oh.
I think it's good. I don't have any other wordsmithing to do on this paragraph.
All right. And Gloria, do you have thoughts?
That paragraph is okay, but the overall responsibilities, I have some suggestions.
All right. So I think we have a consensus that we like where the qualifications are. Let's go to the overall responsibilities. So I think we got to scroll up. Do you want up or down, Gloria?
Up, the other way. Who's doing that? Heather?
Yeah, oh, overall, I'm sorry.
Overall responsibilities. So that superintendent shall serve as, and you got the executive office of the school district. I think it should serve as the senior administrator held within the district. Any suggestion, any comments on that?
You think it should,
Super-
can you say that one more time?
The superintendent shall serve as the senior administrative versus the executive office of the school district. So the senior administrator held within the school district.
I'm fine with that.
How about executive administrator? Because administrator is very common language in
The senior one,
public school district.
I'm okay with the executive administrator.
I like that.
Okay.
I also was wondering, and maybe it's just a matter of choice of words. You know, I don't want to wordsmith too much, but you know, is responsible for the overall delivery of administrative and leadership service of the district. But should there be something in there that they're responsible for the day-to-day operations of the school district?
Probably under responsibilities, so we can add it there.
Okay. I don't know. I just thought that was like direct, you know, more direct. What the job is.
Under the educational regulations, everything flows from the superintendent.
Okay. And then on the line that says the superintendent, or take the word "the" out and put they shall develop and maintain a system of public schools. We don't know if it's a male or female. Instead of saying the superintendent, I think they should say they shall develop and maintain a system of public schools staffed by certified educators, qualified professionals, yada, yada, yada. The word
Who is they? How do you know who they is?
Well, it's because you're already talking about the superintendent. So they shall develop and maintain a system of public schools.
But I think that's plural. We're talking about a singular office of
Right.
superintendent.
So
So
okay, so
They is
he or
also,
she.
well, they is now
no,
the,
he or
also
she.
the,
So that's why I'm saying they.
Yeah.
Instead of
they is accepted as a singular for not knowing the gender these days.
Oh,
right.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's why.
Having said that, I just feel like it should be capitalized everywhere, superintendent, or nowhere, not half and half.
I
I
agree.
agree.
I could do that globally, yeah.
And then I have another one that says the superintendent school will work together. And I would say the superintendent, it says the superintendent of national schools will be accountable, but I would say the superintendent schools will work together with the Board of Education. But to say accountable is too harsh to me, but will work together softer.
I think
So-
they are accountable though, Gloria.
Tommy?
Yeah.
The superintendent is held accountable to the board.
I know they are accountable, but they will work together. I mean, it's accountable, but working together. But I mean, that's just my opinion.
I think
Dana, does that have legal ramifications, the word accountable?
Yeah. I
Is
mean, what
it-
do you mean legal? It shows a relationship between the superintendent to the board.
Well, work together also show the same thing.
no, work together sounds like they're on equal footing,
Right.
whereas the board is the supervisor of the superintendent. And
Yeah.
I think, especially people coming from out of state where that might not be the case,
Mhm.
it's important to lay that out right from the get-go, that in New Hampshire, this is how it's structured. So there's no confusion.
All right, but that's just my suggestion. So if you want to keep that, will be accountable, it's okay with me. But I said work together with. I think when you're working together with a person, you have a responsibility to work together in a more positive meaning instead of, you're accountable for something. I look at it like that. If I'm working
And-
together with Jessica.
And that language might be more appropriate in when we start marketing the position,
Okay.
and would use that phrase.
You
Okay.
can add on to it, you know, you can say who is held accountable to the board and works in conjunction with the board. I mean, you could ease that sentence up to explain it a little bit more.
Okay. Yes, we are accountable for the superintendent, but we also need to have a good working relationship with the superintendent. And working together, in my mind, would be more appropriate instead of saying,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So I
this is the-
have a suggestion here. I agree with what you're saying. It's making it starting out on the right foot, Gloria, from like as opposed to making it authoritarian. But I think kind of from a structural perspective, I think that maybe it's good to leave the word accountable here, but maybe consider when we move down to the second page, the responsibilities, and it starts talking about keeping the board informed of the condition and different things like that. Maybe we can add in that word is to work with the board to direct the district, or
Agreed.
add something in there that's like a little bit more warm and fuzzy, because I'm hoping that as we interview people, we'll be able to create a positive understanding of the relationship between the board and the superintendent, hopefully.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Does that sound like a good strategy?
Yeah, that's okay with me. As long as we let that superintendent know that we are one team, we're a team. And when you just say we'll be accountable with the board of education, it's like it's not a team. And I think we're a team.
But
Perhaps,
directly, he is that position is your actual employee, the only employee of the board.
Okay.
I would,
What about, okay, would this make you feel more comfortable, Gloria? What if we said the superintendent reports to the Board of Education and shall serve as? Would that make you feel a little bit kinder?
It's a little kinder, yes. You mean in the responsibilities?
Yes.
Yes.
And then maybe where the comma is and shall serve.
Mhm.
What do you guys think about that?
he is
yeah, I think that hits part of what Ms. Timmons was saying. But perhaps on page 2, where it says assure effective communication between the board and the staff, we might want to put something there like assure effective and collaborative communication, or where we're reinforcing that idea of the superintendent and the board ought to be collaborating. But
Yeah.
really what it is the superintendent should be making plans and then presenting those plans to the board to say, yes, we approve these plans, or no, we need you to work on them some more. I mean, that's where the collaboration comes from.
Okay.
It's not like we're equal partners in this. Kind of he does all the work and then we say yes or no.
Yeah.
Or she can do all the work.
She usually does.
Right? So, but
Sorry,
I think one of the problems that this board has had is twofold, is not understanding that we supervise the superintendent, but also not understanding that we don't make the plans. It's the superintendent and the administration that makes the plans, and then we approve or don't approve the plans.
We kind of oversee the plans and make sure it runs smoothly.
Mhm.
We're not able to do that if we are authoritarian. We're not able to do that, and that's the problem we have with all the superintendents. The board sit there and demand or say that they're our employee. Well, we already know that, and we just don't want to point that out. We want to be able to have a good working relationship with the superintendent. Although we know that we oversee the superintendent. Nobody like to say you're my boss. I mean, I'm your boss and you do what I say type thing. I
don't think anybody's saying that right now.
Nobody's saying that right now, but you don't want to give that impression that they have no say. Everything is up to them. I mean, I'm just listening to what happened in the last 4 years where, I hate to bring this up, but the superintendent would say, I'm giving you my idea and whatever the board decide. And I think you give us an idea and then the board say, okay, you're running the district and we're going to take your suggestion instead of saying, well, whatever y'all want, I'm out of here, kind of thing. On a kind of. Dana, do you get what I'm coming from?
Yeah, I do. I think though that the change that we made, I think it does really kind of soften it up. And I think that we can add language to clarify more on page 2.
Okay.
If you're ready, I'll scroll down to page 2 and we can start.
No, there's one other thing in this last page.
Okay.
It says disposition will work with the board. And I would say they will work with the board because we're using they as the superintendent. They meaning he or she will work with, they will work with the Board of Education to develop short and long-term planning. That one word they instead of disposition, meaning he or she. Right?
I don't.
It's 1, 2, 3, the fourth sentence up. Disposition will work with the Board of Education to develop short and long-term planning. And I would like to say they will work with the Board of Education to develop short and long-term planning. They is because we don't know if it's male or female.
I don't like they. I don't like they.
What if we make that more concise? We could lose the whole front part of that sentence, either upon either the recommendation of the superintendent or the initiative of the Board of Education, lose all that and just say the superintendent will work with the Board of Education to develop long and short-term goals. I think we can assume that it will either be initiated by the Board of Education or the superintendent, because those are the only two forces that could initiate that.
All right.
I like that.
Okay. The superintendent will work with the Board of Education to develop short and long-term planning. Okay.
And I think that goes back to your point about working together too. I mean, it lays it out right there.
Right.
Excellent. I think we're ready to scroll down.
Yep, we're there.
Okay.
And thank you, Tara, for being our air traffic control
I
person.
actually like to, because then I can, if I do something wrong, you can say, no, no, no.
All right. So does anyone have anything off the bat that they liked or disliked about the stuff in red? Because I think that was added since the last document.
Correct.
Because it is, so the superintendent is actually held accountable by the New Hampshire Department of Education to make sure that we staff with certified educators and find the most highly qualified ones.
Excellent. I think that that's a very important
Yeah, I like that.
responsibility. I think these all make sense. Is there any, Heather, I'll start with you. Was there anything that you saw in the things, new things or old things that you thought needed editing?
No, not really. I'm just looking for grammar at this point because the content I was fine with.
Okay. And what about you, Ms. Timmons? Anything that jumps out?
No, but I like what you put in, but I have a couple of more. I like what whoever put those red things up. Those are okay. I have no problem with them.
And I have to assume that this order of responsibilities is random. There's no priority order.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Right.
yes. It happens all at once some days.
The one thing that I did try to organize was the expectations. So I tried to put I tried to gather them together, the ones that were similar or alike. So, but by all means, feel free to adjust the order there as well. So I'll go back up to the top. I'm sorry to make you all dizzy.
I like to put in another bullet type thing, and I know it's not bullet, but insert this paragraph, this sentence anywhere.
Okay.
To keep the public informed about modern educational practices, educational trends, and the policies, practices, and problems in their system schools, in the district schools.
A little bit slower. Keep the public informed of.
Keep the public informed about modern educational practices, educational trends, and the policies, practices, and problems in the system schools.
And what in system school?
And,
In the district
problems,
schools.
and problems in the system schools.
I would say district.
Well, district, okay, district, okay. That's, all right, that's good. What do y'all think about that?
I think that's a worthwhile addition.
Oh, good, you put the comma in there. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I got one other. And that one you can insert anywhere. Well, I inserted it at the bottom, but recommends and advises the board on the need for new and/or revised policies and procedures necessary for efficient conduct of the district.
Okay, I thought we had one about policies, but
Yeah, I thought we too, but I
Okay,
like the wording that Gloria has.
right here. Okay, oversee the development administrative procedures and programs to implement the intent established by board policies, directives, and formal actions.
But I think Ms. Timmons's point is that the responsibility is also to keep abreast of any changes or any trends that might need the board to change some of their policies or update policies. Not just implement the policies that are there, but make sure that we're keeping abreast of new policies. Is that?
That's true, right.
Update and.
But I didn't write down Ms. Timmons' words fast enough.
Okay, you putting that, okay, you doing something completely different, Tara?
Yeah,
But,
just,
okay, all
so
right.
you wanted to see the update and what was the?
All I got was recommends and advises the board, and then
Communicate.
And communicate.
Recommend and advises the board on the need for new and/or revised policies and procedures necessary for efficient conduct of the district.
Revisions. Development revisions. And actually, I think I said, yeah, and communications. So development, revisions, and communications of specific administrative procedures. Does that sound, is that?
No, policies are different than procedures. So
Right.
he's not supposed to be developing or revising the policies of the district himself. He's supposed to be doing what Gloria said, being on top of them and advising the district about changes.
Yeah, because that oversee the development. I was talking about inserting something completely different, but you're really taking that oversee the development.
Right. I don't think it can be squished in with that one. Maybe we put it next to it.
Completely different one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try it. Let's start completely right here, just so that they're together.
Yes.
Okay. Recommends and advises the board on the need for new and/or revised policies and procedures necessary for efficient conduct of the district. Okay, you want me to?
Maybe I'm mistaken, but isn't the responsibility of policy development, isn't that the board's role?
It is the board's role, but when we have board turnover every 2 years, we have more people. The the educational advisories about what things need to change on policy, they go into a black hole. There's not a designated person to get them and make sure that whoever's policy chair is actually doing it. There hasn't been. Donna and I tried to work on that 3 years ago. I have no idea what Anthony Parker and Jim Bishop are doing about it. So our policies are, as you know, like 15 to 20 years out of date, some of them longer. So someone needs to be in charge of letting the board know what educational advisories come down from the state, and also being current and abreast of trends and recommending to the board that they adopt or change policies to make the district more efficient. Like, for example, perhaps like when we had the transgender policy change or addition, that came from administration, not from like a board member's brain. If we need to have social justice or racial policies going forward, the superintendent should be aware of that and making sure someone at the administration gets that to the board. Does that make sense? That might not be Gloria's intent, but that's where I'm running with
That
it.
is my intent. Okay. I actually written it out for you, Tara, so you can see it.
Did you send it to me? No?
No, it's right in the chat.
Chat box.
Oh, okay.
Recommends and advises the board on the need for new and or.
Revised policies.
Where's my chat? Oh, I'm not seeing. Oh, chat. Here it is. Oh, I can. That's exciting.
Did you find this someplace else, Gloria? It's brilliant. I love it.
I didn't find it anywhere, but I write a lot of job descriptions for certain people.
Ah,
A lot
brilliant.
of things come up.
Nice.
I like it a lot. It sounds like something that like is obvious and should be everywhere.
Can we change the efficient to something else?
Yeah.
What can that be? Necessary for,
How about effective?
yeah, is that,
That's a better word. Okay.
Or actually, I was kind of stumbling over conduct. How about effective management of the district? No?
Yeah, that's okay.
Sure.
All right.
yeah, that
Very
came
good.
out pretty good.
Yeah.
I would say the only, so, Gloria, did you have another one to add?
No, that's it. That's all.
So I'd say my two biggest items, I would love to see all of the things that say over, this is more like formatting. I would love all the things to start with oversee to kind of be grouped together, but we don't have to do that right now. Maybe that's something that you guys can
Yeah,
edit
you
later.
don't want to
If that-
watch me do it.
And so that's fine. If you guys, if that's not bothering anyone else, we can just leave it, but.
No, I
Well, I
can.
think that's a good idea. Maybe
So it kind of says, this is what you do. I mean, if you wanted to, you could even put oversee : bullet points, but or keep it all formatted the same as you like. And then if you could then also take things that are similar in content and group them together after the overseas. I think that would be just easier for someone who is reading the job description to for comprehension. And my only other comment, and I just don't know if I just have glazed over it, is there anything about district transparency in here? I'd love to have some kind of sentence about that.
Is that in
It's
it?
down here?
Yeah, at the very end, right?
Parent communication. I
Yep.
thought it was twice for some odd reason. I thought we had it in here a couple of times, but I could be wrong.
Yep, actually, I like that sentence. I just had not, I thought I read it, but I couldn't find it. So,
Yep.
Thanks.
I think Gloria's line under requirements talks about that too, to keep the public informed of, educational practices and trends, et cetera.
Yes.
Yes, Stacy.
Just something to build on something that you discussed about organizing the responsibilities, because that's quite almost a full page of responsibilities. I was wondering if it'd be worth like categorizing maybe certain responsibilities under leadership and certain responsibilities under management or day-to-day management, or just to kind of break it up a little bit.
I think that I think that could be fine. I would be happy to leave that to Dana and Tara to like, and you to bring the final, since we have the wording here and what the list is, to make that look more efficient, I think. Is it everyone else on the committee comfortable with that?
I'm not sure how you're going to divide those up, Stacy. Because a lot
Well,
of
yeah, I know it's a critical thinking to do that. I don't know, maybe in the end we'll decide not to, but I was just wondering for the sake of organization and just presenting it to potential candidates, it might not be worth trying to do that. I don't know. I'm just, this is off the top of my head right now. I haven't thought about this.
No, I think I see what you're saying. So instead of just being responsibilities, you could say leadership responsibilities, management responsibilities, community
Or board
responsibilities,
responsibilities.
whatever the categories are. Yeah. Actually, and let me double check here. Is there something in, maybe this is all the way down at the bottom as well. Hold on one second. I do remember now my other note that I have on another sheet of paper. In the expectations, we like to add something about and maintaining now the word efficient won't get out of my head, maintaining a budget maintenance, maintaining a clear budget, something about budget
process,
overseeing the budget, but like it, staying within budget, not going over budget.
Financial acumen, is that what it's sometimes referred to?
Yes.
That's a good one.
That's right, financial acumen.
Ensure
everybody stays in their lane.
No, it has to be something like you
balanced budget.
Right,
maybe.
you oversee the district's budget, so that it meets the district needs while remaining within the, I don't want to say parameters defined by the city, because that, I don't want to commit us to, I don't want to do anything that would commit us to doing whatever the mayor says, because no offense to Mayor Donches.
Recommend, maybe just recommending having the financial acumen to recommend a balanced budget to the board, because technically we actually approve the budget.
But is it balanced? I mean, what makes it balanced?
Or
not
maybe
balanced? I would just say oversees the budget, the school district budget, and makes recommendations to the board for approval.
But isn't that the law?
Yes, but we still have the expectation that they do it just like they're supposed to by law follow the code of conduct, discrimination, and sexual harassment.
Yep.
But sometimes you got to write it out there.
Okay.
Maybe you're right. Maybe we don't need that. I just like the idea that people come in knowing that we are budget conscious here in Nashua.
But you can't hold anybody accountable without having a rule about it. State
Right.
Bennett told me that the other day. No rules, you can't do anything.
Development.
If you guys want to work that sentence around, since I kind of brought it in late to the game, I'm having a hard
Oversee
time
the
getting
development of the district budget and make recommendations to the Board of Education.
That works.
Make recommendations, yeah. Make budgetary recommendations to the Board of Education for
Spending
approval.
recommendations, maybe financial recommendations.
I don't know.
Yep. All right. Thanks for that.
The annual district budget.
Yeah.
Don't you want to say, you talked about saying something more like that it's, don't you want to further clarify what that budget should?
I'm having a hard time coming up with a descriptive word to describe that. I would like the budget to stay in the black.
Right, don't overspend. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you write that out though, like
I
ensure that the district expenses fall within the budget.
so would the,
Don't spend
If-
money we don't have.
So is that fiscal responsibility?
Yeah. So maybe number
ensure
11
fiscal, maybe that's
is,
what it is. Maybe it's ensure fiscal responsibility of the district and make budgetary recommendations to the board instead of oversee.
Oh,
The development and what's the word we're looking for?
deployment. I just throwing that out there. I don't know that that's the word.
Implementation?
Oh, that's
Implementation.
better.
that's, yeah.
Mhm. I know they always refer to it as the operating budget. I don't know if there's any other type of budget, but
Is that, yeah. Yeah, that works.
The only other thing that I had, wait, the only other thing that I had was about an annual report, because it turns out that that is something that is legally required. Even though we got rid of our policy regarding an annual report, it's actually, I believe in Ed 30 something, 2. I think they're supposed to have one.
doesn't that fall under the municipality?
Yeah, we have to contribute to the overall.
City of Nashua
You know what?
annual
That-
report.
And
That
so
might actually fall under ensure local, state, federal standards and statutes are held and adhered to.
oh, it could, yeah. I just know that like, historically, we've submitted that, I'm saying we, I don't do anything. The school district has submitted that information to the city, but not to the board. Like on an annualized report basis. We get the operating budget, but we don't get anything regarding like how the school did this year, which might change as we do the strategic plan and we have a yearly strategic plan update, if that ever happens.
Right.
But
I know that each mayor has asked for different report outs, if you will. And this mayor has used the, remind me, Stacy, of what he calls it, the,
Or a state of the city address?
not the state of the city, but the one that just was in May that we didn't attend, where every department does a presentation to the city as to what is.
Oh,
Uh,
what is that? Yeah,
and that's kind of been our
I'm
annual.
drawing a blank.
City, I know, it's on the tip of my tongue. But that's been basically our city report for Mayor Donchis. That's what he has asked for the last 3 years.
And I thought the city clerk's office actually led the development of a city annual report and got in touch with each of the divisions. But quite honestly, it's been years since anybody's asked me about that. And I didn't know, I don't know what the status of it is. I remember years and years ago, I used to prepare an annual report.
I have them in one of those many cabinets. I have years worth.
well, it's something that Mr. Kaufman brought up multiple times a year during his tenure on the board, and it never actually happened. So
Right, so it used to be a annual report, and then we found that with our websites and the development of the 2 latest websites, that our data is there, that we put out only in different, menus and subsections and whatnot. So that's why.
Yeah. And we also used to put out a fact sheet about, it was one of those brochures.
Mhm.
And that had all the nuts and bolts from who the principals were, who were the members of the Board of Ed, to what was our annual budget, to how many.
So maybe that's not a superintendent expectation. Maybe that's just something that someone else in the district is responsible for. I don't actually know.
No, but I think that this covers you.
Yep.
I think it would be nice to have a brochure for the candidates that has that kind of information on it.
Yeah, it would.
I think that would be a nice thing to have moving
Academy?
forward. Would that be something that would fall under your department, Stacy?
I've certainly done them in the past. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
Did we call it City Academy, Stacy?
Yes. Yes. Very good.
Oh, that's right. We didn't send anybody this year, did we? Last year I spoke.
Yep.
Yeah, brochure would be nice.
Yep.
Stacy, you seem so thrilled that you attended this meeting. I'm like, please come.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
well, she's on our committee, right?
It's a big
Yes.
job.
Yes, I have voluntold her.
So, how can, except for some formatting issues, do the board members here feel like this document is ready to go?
I think so. Do we need to submit it to the full board for approval?
I would say we could maybe bring it out on Monday if we approve it here in this committee. And we could maybe have the final version, the final draft of it. How do you feel about that, Gloria? You're on mute.
Dana, do you think we have the time? Do this normally, the job description normally go to the full board? No other job description does.
I know.
It's all done, right?
It's not a policy, so
Right.
that's why I was not sure.
So does it have to go in front of the full board?
But we have an HR before the board,
Okay,
right?
right.
Tara?
Yes, but your HR sent it to ad hoc, so I'm not sure it needs to go back to HR. I think it can go to the full board.
Yeah, full board. I think so too.
Yeah.
I agree. I
guess
think we can just move to recommend it in the full board if we like what it looks like.
Okay, then I make that motion to move the job description to the full
Oh,
board.
cool. I think
just have one
Stacy
more
had one more
suggestion.
suggestion here
I
first, if
do.
you're okay with
Under-
it.
Under expectations, the second one, hold and espouse a belief that all students, instead of the verb can, are you comfortable with the verb will?
Oh, love that.
Where are you, Stacy? I'm sorry.
Second one under expectations. Oh, I have a different version. I don't know how that
I
happened.
have the old version.
Oh, I do? How did I get?
Yeah, number 5. It's number 5
Okay.
now.
Oh, yes. Okay. So instead of the verb can, will.
I like that.
Yep.
Much better. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so now, Ms. Timmons, I will accept your motion.
No, I'll second it.
Okay.
All right, so Ms. Timmons, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Raymond
Yes.
and Ms. Brown votes yes. So we have approved to recommend the job description to the full board. So let's see, we've got committee
As
chair.
amended, just
Oh,
so
I'm
the
sorry,
minutes say
correct.
as amended.
As
This one.
amended. Thank you very much. So we've got our job descriptions finished. We all have a copy of the current superintendent proposals. The next steps are going to be, we're going to try to get meetings with these folks set up for their presentations, hopefully back to back if we can accommodate that. And maybe we might need to add on just a brief, if we decide that we would like to go with one of those, we might want to have a brief meeting to approve after that, to recommend one of the groups to the board should we decide to go that direction. Yes, Gloria?
Yes. Should we get feedback from Dan?
I think definitely. If he's available, it would be great if he was in those proceedings, I think.
Or sorry, or at least the meeting afterwards where we talk about which one to recommend.
Yep, I completely agree. All right, so would everyone be comfortable with, oh, go ahead, Heather.
Oh, sorry, did you want to make a motion for something?
Well, in a minute, a motion to adjourn, but just to confirm, can I work with Tara to set those times up accordingly?
Okay, I have one other, just to make this perfectly clear, that ad hoc committee members is us three as well as Stacy, Dana, and Tara. Is that correct?
Sandra.
And Sandra Zane.
And Sandra.
Yeah.
So,
That- okay.
and that was the question that I had. There was some discussion about making it the full board as the ad hoc committee. I don't think that's a good idea. I think we vet things and then we send it to the full board because I don't want to approve something in a committee. Plus, they're all not available all the time. The other question is, I've gotten a lot of emails from individuals in the community wanting to volunteer for this committee. And so I just wanted to speak briefly with you guys about what do you want to do? Should we invite other people in at this point in the process? Do we want to not invite anybody? Do we want to wait until we've gotten a little further down the line to the interview stage and then perhaps invite community members into the process? I don't know what's been done in the past, so I just wanted to throw that out there at the beginning.
I think
so
the
that we have a
last thing
plan.
what you said is good. I think what's really important to
Yeah.
have the community input, but I think we should ask for it further down the line after we have some candidates, then we can get some questions. And I think we should move along with the process a little bit further before we bring that in. And I'm seeing a consensus, it seems, from the administrators here.
Yeah. I actually think that's a very good question. One of the questions to ask when we have our vetting of the agencies here. That's a very good question to ask. At what point do they recommend typically developing an interview team, and what's the makeup of the interview team, and
Then
how
is
do
the
we
interview
recruit
team
members to the interview team?
right? Is the interview team also necessarily have to be members of the ad hoc committee, or could that be a separate? We have the ad hoc committee, and then we have the interview team.
Exactly.
I don't know.
We should
Yeah,
have
could be.
one of us, Jessica or whoever, on those other. So if we might want a group of students and parents, right? Kind of like focus groups. One of us should always be on the team.
I think that's a good plan moving forward. And I think actually I did see some recommendations from these consulting companies with a good different recommendations for makeups, representation from the local union, recommendations from different athletics organizations, all kinds of different combinations, and they'll even stakeholders. Thank you for the word. And then they'll reach out to. They'll even coordinate that and coordinate a Zoom meeting or whatever. Traditionally it would be a town hall, but times are different.
Okay, good.
So,
I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that, and I didn't want to exclude anybody unnecessarily. Does that make sense? Because I do think we should have community input.
Yes,
During the process when it's appropriate.
I agree.
Definitely.
excellent. And I think because the board already approved your recommendations for committee assignments, that ad hoc committee was already down there at the bottom for the board members that were part of it. So I think, or did you move people around?
The only change was Mrs. Oden didn't want to be on it, so I took her off and I traded her with me, I think. Who did I trade her with?
It really doesn't matter. So,
but
I think so. I think that's fine because you have the authority to assign it, Heather. So I think we're good as far as I don't think we need to have an approval.
okay. I know we approved it when we approved all the committee assignments, but this particular committee, because I had so many emails from the public, and because with all the other committee assignments, I try and balance people so they're not overstretched. I don't want one person to have 6 committees and one person to have 2. It's not fair. So I tried balancing, but this one I just picked the people who I knew didn't work full time.
You know, you got to have a reason. It's all good.
Which is, you know, it's not, I didn't try and match skills, which sometimes I try and do as well. Like I put a lot of thought and effort into all the other committees, and this one kind of felt like a grab bag. And I wanted to make sure people were satisfied because I think this is going to take quite a bit of time.
I do. I think it's a good group.
And as part of next steps, why don't I draft a recruitment brochure that we can all take a look at?
That would be
that's
excellent.
great.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
Yep.
All right. Well, then we have 2 action items for next week. Hopefully, be on the lookout for possibly a daytime meeting if you guys are comfortable with that. So that we're not going to have a recommendation for the board for Monday night, but we might have a recommendation beyond the approval of the superintendent job description, but we might have something prepared for the following meeting to get approval for spending or something if we need to. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
Very good.
All right. So now I would accept and would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So approved. So something. I forgot.
So moved. All right, Gloria, and seconded by Miss Raymond. So, all right, Heather.
Yes.
All right, Gloria.
Yes.
And Jessica votes yes. And thank you to the non-voting members for being here and spending the afternoon with us.